Good to be with you, KJ.
Likewise, Terence.
I enjoyed seeing you at the gym this morning and noticed that we both have this love of working out and see the gym, I think, mutually as a church, a place where we can go. Lead off just by asking you what's your relationship with that, of the gym and working out, and how's that been a benefit to your life?
Oh wow, that can go deep. But ever since I was a young man, there wasn't a lot of role models and masculine figures to talk to or be guided by. But when I found the gym, I found this, like you call it church, and I would agree. It's this place where I can gather myself. I can focus my energy very well because I love coming into my body, but I have a very strong mind. So I find that the gym, I center my energy and I come into my body, and that's like I've been going through some, let's say, heavy waves of emotions lately, and I just get up early. I know that if my mind is racing at night, I'm looking forward to going to the gym and just like going hard and just feeling all the natural hormones just balancing out my body naturally after pushing it really hard and building strength. So it's a place that I go very often to stabilize myself emotionally, and that has been necessary for me since I was young, because I had a lot of turbulence in my environment and home, and it's church, and it's a habit that has stuck, and because it's so healing in so many levels for me, and it never lets me down. It's always there. It's just that I can take responsibility and go there and have that consistency. And there's mirrors all around too. I think that it's not important, but you see yourself showing up for yourself.
That's an interesting take on it.
And it's proof to yourself, and the body responds to it. So
Definitely something for me of feeling the way my body responds to it, and the sense of deep gratitude to myself, and like an honoring of this physical form that I've been given, that I'm meeting it. It's being met. And with the dance of my mind, as you were saying, at night, if there's turmoil and I'm waking up a bit frazzled from like chewing on ideas in the night, looking forward to going to the gym, there's a respite there that I can come into this place that is a church. It's my refuge from the extraneous noise of the world, and it's like I'm meeting myself in this place, and it's just me and the weight, and like moving it and feeling the nuanced sensation of how do I maintain form under this heavy load right here, and everything else has to fall away. If I start thinking about my relationship dramas or work stresses or whatever it might be, then I'm not going to be able to push near as much weight, because that mental energy is just going to sap it from me. But I do like also that aspect of a forced meditation, like a forced worship. And like you said, there's mirrors all around. I haven't really considered it from that perspective. I don't tend to spend a lot of time looking at myself in the mirror. I've had this judgment of people that do that, a little bit narcissistic. And yet I do notice that I'm looking and checking, getting that visual reinforcement of like, I'm here, I'm doing this thing. Look at the way my body is changing. Look at the way it's adapting under these stresses. And yeah, I've got a little shameful joy out of being with the mirror in the gym. But I also avoid it a little bit, just because I don't want to like step into, when I see someone that's there just posing and like spending a good bit of time like walking back and forth checking themselves out. I find that a little bit distasteful for me, but I understand it.
I come into, I guess I have had a lot of, like, I've been in the gym for 25 years and seen many different styles of reasons why one goes to the gym. I remember being offered steroids when I was like 15, 16 and turning it down, and seeing these guys become hulks over very short periods of time. And I knew that wasn't for me. I'm an investigator, so whenever something comes into my field, I really investigate it before I jump in. I'm cautious. before I make moves. And so when I see people coming into the gym and they want to look good, I have a lot of compassion for that. And I think everybody should feel sexy. I think everybody should be desired and be allowed to be desired. And the shape of one's body is one of the biggest things for people to look at, and they want to look good and they want to be desired. So I've had a change of how I look at people in the gym. My philosophy is everybody's taking care of themselves at their best ability, and that makes me happy.
In the nature of the reflection of mirrors, when I see someone that is posing and I see myself in them, and that desire to adore my body in public and to be uncaring about who's seeing me, and maybe to entertain that narcissistic aspect of myself, I do have an aversion, and it's a beautiful, compassionate approach that I'm hearing you say of how to be with other people as they're learning how to meet themselves and caring for themselves in the best way they can. And the truth is that the charge that I have around it is just over probably, most likely, my own challenges at being loving, compassionate, accepting of myself in my judgments of myself, and the ways that I soothe myself through the story that I am not attractive, the story that I'm not a desirable human. And then I see in the mirror this objective reality that my mind says, well, look, that's what I look like. Maybe not the story that I have in my head. And there's some friction there for me that I both resist it and go towards it. And I think that's where that shame energy comes from. Fortunately, it's not very loud for me. And the work that I've done through my life has allowed me to meet those places of shame more and more compassionately over time. But it's fun to notice it right now in this moment. I want to track back to something else you said. You were commenting that one of the reasons you went into the gym was that you didn't have a lot of masculine support structures around you at a time in your life where you were looking for it, and the gym was the outlet for you in that. So tell me more about that. Like, what was that like to not have that support? What were you looking for? And how's it impacted your life in not having it?
I don't think it was a conscious seeking, more of a subconscious seeking of someone to model my forward movement. And I saw that men around me were going somewhere. I didn't really resonate with where they were going. I've always been quite critical of how things are done in society. I was kind of a rebel in school, kind of like on the back foot, questioning authority from a very early age, because I questioned the authority of my father very early. And that, if you don't, like my perspective of looking at it, if you don't have a stable father figure in your life early on, one can become a lost boy. And I think I kind of got a little bit lost, and I wanted to do things my way, quite stubborn. Didn't want to follow the crowd. I didn't see what they were going for. You know, I didn't smell any gold in the air. The gym focused my energy, and it gave me the first time I really had a good workout. I felt really content with myself, because I finally found a way to focus my energy. And basketball was that for me. I remember just like finding a hoop, just, I don't know, in a parking lot or something. It was just like way off, like nobody was there, and just like shooting. And I like remember the first time I heard that swoosh sound. Oh, that was a perfect shot. And it comes back to like watching yourself in the mirror, because you do have to look at your form. You know, you have to do the same thing over and over and over again until your form is perfect. And that was going into the gym, looking at myself and seeing my body change, and that I had power. I had power to change, even if there was no one to guide me. I didn't have to find a guide. I could find that guide within myself, and the gym showed it to me. Or I showed myself in the gym and in basketball or any other sport. And I could see that any emotional turbulence would get in my own way. That would be if I wasn't stable emotionally, that was what's going to prevent me from achieving clarity in the moment and doing and performing.
From a perspective of what you're saying there, I think self-reliance is what you're speaking of. You learned how to rely on yourself, and you found agency and authority within yourself that you were able to direct, and there was a real reflection of that in the gym. You put the effort in, and then you can change. Very really, your body changed as a result. And I think self-reliance is one of the attributes of masculinity and manhood. I think would serve many people to adopt more of. But there's a flip side of the coin, being able to receive support and being able to surrender into a mentoring relationship or having an advisor or a guide in life. And so at such a young age, you going into that self-reliance, bucking authority, resisting your father, which is the story of so many of us. It's a very similar story for me. I can remember being young and finding such solace in that basketball hoop for hours every day after school. It was my refuge from a pretty traumatic experience in my family. But for you, how has that worked in the ability to go to the other side, the yin to the yang of the self-reliance, the yin being the receiving support and such? How's that for you?
That's very alive for me. In this moment, relating with women and receiving. I have a very strong discernment of who I build trust with, because trust has to be a foundation before I receive, because I receive deeply. I have deep emotional capacity, and if I let someone in which is turbulent, because I also have a lot of turbulence in my past, it takes time for me to receive from a person. I have a public life, and then I have a private life and a secret life, and I consciously discern who I let into these different spheres, and that's so I can be stable. I can show up with integrity and the energy that I want. Because it was hard not performing well in school, and I felt like I fell behind because of this turbulence. Really, I had a lot of anger and like a lot of frustration, and it was hard for me to focus energy. Like I said, one of the first times I really felt I got reward for focusing my energy was in the gym. I didn't get it in school. Didn't do very well academically. I thought I was stupid, and it takes a lot for me to focus my energy and dive in. It has to be an emotional connection, and it took a long time for me to learn how to trust and receive. And so it took a long time for me to find motivation, because I'm very emotionally motivated. I can have a good idea, but it really has to feel safe for me to pursue something.
I'm hearing that sense of safety for you, and I have met people in my life that afford trust to people immediately upon meeting them. It's like, yeah, I'll trust you 100% until you prove otherwise. And I hear in your story, which I really relate to, that no, you don't get my trust until you demonstrate that you're trustworthy. And there's a curiosity in me. I notice my tendency is to come more into challenging myself to trust more readily. And the risk that's associated with that, the fear that's inherent in that trusting, feels like it's the direction that I want to go, rather than to rest in this sense of, I'm going to mistrust everyone until they demonstrate trust. And I'm just curious, is that something that you relate to, or do you feel that maintaining that state of the secret life, the private life, the public life, and then having deeper layers of protection and maintaining them is a better way to go?
I'm not gonna say I have the solution to that, but for me, it's very important to discern who I have in my life. It's important that we are on a mission, conscious awareness of where you're going, and that's become apparent to me through friendship, my friends. I want my friends to share the mission that I'm on. I want the clients that I coach to be on a mission, or help them clarify that, because life is short, and I want quality. I want a high quality of life, and a high quality of life is through really, really deep relationships with people. It's a high value of mine, and I get to discern who I spend time with, and that's friendship, work, pleasure, play. I don't want to compromise my desire for deep relationships and being on a mission, because there's going to be turmoil. I'm a guy that I don't leave you in battle. Once I'm committed to you, it's for life, and I want to make sure that that is honored in the individuals I relate to, and so I have a discernment process. Not everybody gets past the public sphere. It's just the way I make sure I feel safe, and then I can offer that safety to people that come in that want to drink from that well.
I really honor that. I can feel the way this has been born out of a lot of experience, this discernment that you speak of, and progressive induction into deeper levels of intimacy with someone. And there's a part of me that thinks it's very wise to do that. And there's still that flip side for myself of challenging. What if I didn't live with this exclusionary energy toward people? And I have had moments in life when I've been more free, more floaty in my energy, and I've been validated that it's safe to trust people. And then it's like if I'm at Burning Man and flitting around and just trust everyone, and it's wonderful. Or certain times in my life where I'm getting a lot of my other needs met and I feel really stable, then those boundaries tend to dissolve, and it brings curiosity to me, because then I come back into a place of my normal workaday life, and then those structures of discernment come back pretty strongly for me. And I'm in a stage of my life like that at the moment, and I have this lingering memory of, but that was really free and open, and it seemed very safe there. Yet imagining myself operating like that right now, I wouldn't trust it. I would feel fearful. There was another thing that popped up as you were talking, this idea of the way we do anything is the way we do everything. And in you speaking about the quality of the relationships that you want to build, I recognized a similar thing in myself of quality is a much more important value for me than quantity in life now. And so the quality of the food that I eat, the quality of the training that I do in the gym, the quality of the friends that I'm around, the quality of a car that I'd buy, what are the ways that I do that everywhere? And I like imagining that, and I'm just curious if that statement, the way you do anything is the way you do everything, resonates with you, and do you see that rippling out, that idea of your discernment and way of building your life? Is it
I repeat it over and over again, because my research into esoteric knowledge has led me to that we create with our words. What am I saying is, if you can't say it in one line, don't say it. And it makes you have to concentrate your energy, and it's to make you look at what you want, and it's much easier to ask for what you want, and doing one thing like everything like you do the one thing is a very concentrated, habitual way of shaping a way of being, because you can check yourself with that saying, am I integrity by doing this? It's a very easy, no, I'm not integrity with doing this. I resonate highly with that statement.
I was just reading an Osho book, In Search of the Miraculous. It's in the beginning of it, there was a quote by Kabir of, I was a drop that merged with the ocean. And then he revised it. He said, that's actually not true. And he changed it to, I am the ocean that merged with the drop. And that was what he rested on. That was more true. And in some of my investigations into esoteric aspects of spirituality and understanding this reality, that feels like one of the greatest drops of wisdom. And in that concept of the way that we do anything is the way that we do everything speaks to the holographic nature of the most minute aspect of this moment is resonant throughout our entire experience. It's all contained somehow here. It's all accessible to us in this moment now. And it's also this amazing opportunity that I see in it, that right now, here, in fact, is the only place that I can change what I want to change. But I love that idea of succinctness that you're bringing up, how to distill something down to the most concentrated form, deliver it in one line in the ask of what you want, that is so powerful, so potent, so succinct, that it can be condensed down into this moment where you're bringing all of that ocean and then bring it into that one drop. And to me, that lights me up and makes me very curious about the nature of this reality and our words and our minds and how we're interfacing with our lives.
Curiosity is a great place to be. The potency of what you just talked about is sinking in. But here we are recording a conversation, and we're recording the energy state that we're in right now, capturing our voices, which reflects everything. I think the voice reflects everything that you are, is the spoken vibration. And I look at reality as a reflection of what state I'm in, as above, so below, as within, so without. And so that's alive, seeing everything as a reflection of myself, because it comes back to responsibility and not giving away my power, because that's a very valid defense mechanism. To give away your power feels safe. It's what a lot of educational system is based on. Any system that's based with authority without outside of yourself. I don't know if you want to speak of your personal life, but applying for a visa in a different country, the processes that you have to go through to prove that you exist, that your reality is real. You know, I get this anger in me that arises when I speak of it. I have to prove myself.
It's an interesting thing that is so widely accepted. It's like in the world, it feels like this delusion that has captured everyone, and myself even. I go under the waters of this delusion that somehow I need to prove my value or my right to exist. And somehow I've bought into all these structures that this land, this earth that I'm on, that there's these inherent rules that the culture of humans here have put in, that they're immutable. They can't be changed. Like, I can't just go and visit a different piece of land somewhere on the planet without going through all of this red tape to be able to go there, because there's different rules, there's different laws. I have to prove who I am. I have to demonstrate with this passport and say, oh yeah, this is me, and I belong to this other country, and I'm just visiting, and I'm not going to stay for very long. I'm just going to come as a guest, and you're going to extend your hospitality, and then I'll leave. And there's a guarantee of that in all the systems that are in place. But even so much as these agreements that somehow this body that I'm in, it's not allowed to be shown naked. Like, even though that's the creation of this body that, for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, there's been naked forms of humanoids here. Suddenly in the world today, that's not okay to do that. You can't reveal that, and especially not these genitals. And these rules that are imposed upon me that I, as a child, agreed to without the ability to fully consent to it. And then through my life, I'm having to unwind it, and the anger and the frustration of the way that the power that was inherently mine to make choices about how I live my life on this planet as a obviously belonging, worthy product of this planet's life expression, that I've limited myself through these agreements that I made without full consent, without full knowing, at least of my conscious mind. And I feel anger around that as well.
Yeah, like I'll come back to the statement of like giving away your responsibilities, and you can feel really safe and good because it works with principles. Like we're supposed to be born into a stable masculine feminine environment, and as a child you have to soak up the wisdom of your surroundings, and in a balanced harmonious environment, that's a great mechanism for nature to grow. In unstable times it's not. It's the time where everyone has to take responsibility and rebalance the environment. And freedom is dangerous. That's what I've experienced. If you want to live in a community and there's no ruler, you have to take responsibility for your own safety. And that's kind of the feeling I had when I was growing up. I had to make sure I was safe. I had to learn how to self soothe. I had to take care of me feeling safe, because it was a need of mine, or a desire, was to feel safe, and I didn't feel safe. And there's no one to blame, but I get to take responsibility, and I've built a personality that solved these problems. And I also have a desire for freedom, and that's why I love to surround myself with people that I feel share principles that they have integrated, and that builds trust and makes me feel secure. There's many examples in the world today where the mental state of humans around you dictate what rules are voted in the name of safety, public health. There's a lot happened in the world that made me feel real good about the way I walk through the world, and looked at it. Helped me look at my past as a blessing, that I had developed abilities to discern who I deem trustworthy around myself. And I'm very interested in the space of crypto. I guess I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, but in that area, it's so exciting to just watch the space, because it's all about self-custody and self-responsibility. I don't know where the technology is going to go, but I find it so interesting to follow the discussions, the philosophy that is developed in that space, because it meets these constrictive areas of rules and our society and the culture, and I just see this potential of rapid change, and that excites me. It excites me to be stable in times of really great change, because that's what my upbringing has gifted me, to find my own stability in a very unstable environment.
Yeah, to find your center. Like you bringing in the idea of crypto, I think it is an idea in the world at the moment that is very new. And the concept of decentralization is very new. And with the advent of the internet, and where we have these nodes all over the planet spread that have access to this concept called the internet, which is this information that's floating around, but it's all stored somewhere, but it's stored everywhere. And then when we take that to this product that we now see as Bitcoin, this concept where every node contains all the information. And so if everything got taken down, but there was one node left, then that whole system could be rebuilt from it, and all the information that was always there is retained. And it's in strong contrast to the pyramid structure that is throughout the world on US currency and in so many business structures, this hierarchical system of there's the top, and then there's progressively larger layers of ignorance going down. And with this decentralization concept, it's like all the information is spread. And when I look at it from a concept of sovereignty for individuals, rather than power being given away, responsibility being claimed by a few over the many, this new idea of decentralization when it comes to sovereignty and power and responsibility is like you, as you've done naturally in your life, you have responsibility for your life. You have the power to direct your life as you like. You are the authority over your life. And we as a culture can set some basic rules on the governance of that. And maybe it's that you can't steal anyone's stuff. You can't hurt anyone else or limit anyone else's ability to be free, which I think are pretty much the basic laws of humanity that have been extant for a very long time. And if we did away with all of these other laws, and it's like, well, one of the founding principles of all that is that you also have to be responsible if you're stupid and you kill yourself. And I like that idea. I like the idea of me having such authority granted to me that if I should do something stupid and kill myself, that the larger culture would be like, well, that's the consequences of your action. And not to jump in and say, well, we need to protect people, so we're going to take power away from them to do things they want to do. And I understand that it's a very delicate issue for a lot of people. But I think that fundamental principle of my life is my responsibility. And I claim that responsibility, and I don't enjoy the idea of anyone else saying that they have responsibility over my life. And the return of that in a decentralized way across the planet, that every person is autonomous, that they have authority and responsibility for their own life. And they can also choose to give that power away if they want. I could see circumstances where that'd be really useful. But I imagine that that idea of Bitcoin, decentralization, I think it could have really big ramifications on the consciousness of humanity. And I hope in a positive way. I actually trust that it'll be in a positive way.
It's like I don't want to see anybody suffer, and it brings me pain to see someone suffer. What I've learned from my own life is that things had to get worse before they got better. It just rings true in everything. Like I grow from, it's painful, like growing pains when you're a young boy, it's painful. It's painful to grow. It's the nature of being human, and I want to grow. I have a deep desire to grow and learn and obtain wisdom. And then when you talked about crypto, I was reminding you of the drop in the ocean, the drop of everything being contained in every node. So I think that is a valid technology, because all technology, when it functions well, I think it just mimics nature. It will never replace nature, but good technology mimics nature and works like nature. And I think the consciousness, the society that we live in is very mind dominant. It's a forceful society. You know, I want the roads to be built so everybody can have roads to travel. I want everybody to have access to being healthy and having clean water, healthy food, feel safe in their environment. But having a military force to provide safety, I don't think that's the way to provide. That's not the only way to provide safety. So it's not what. I think we can agree on what we want, but how we do it, I think, is a very necessary discussion. And for me, I want to show up as someone that takes responsibility and sees challenges and turns them into opportunity and empowers people around me. That's what I want to show up as. And it's not going to be like, there's a lot of change everywhere. And I have a deep desire to show up in that change and support those that value what I have. And I'm also stepping into a space where I can receive support from others, because I've been a lone wolf most of my life. But I see that sharing experiences, whether it's travel, food, conversation, is much better when it's shared.
You bring up such a big point for me in my investigation of this reality, and hearing you say the ocean being contained in the drop and then claiming the responsibility to live your life the way you want to, rather than trying to change all these extraneous systems to come into a right relationship with yourself. And fundamentally, in the investigations I've done about nature of reality, is that there is only one here. There's only one consciousness here. And in this moment, the only access point that I have to it is my own self-awareness. And if I am that drop that is the ocean is contained within, it's like I don't need to change anything externally. Like the old Mahatma Gandhi idea of be the change you wish to see in the world. Well, perhaps the only change that we can see in the world is when there's change happening inside of ourselves, because there is this holographic nature to the universe. And then there is this other side of the coin, that there are other people here. There is a world that's here in front of me, that's as real as I've ever been able to experience, that's known as KJ, that's sharing his inner universe with me right now. And it's undeniable to me that that exists also. And so I can accept and acknowledge that I am the only conscious node point that I have access to in the cosmos, and that there are other node points as well. And so I'm the only one that can change anything in reality, and there's also all these other nodes that can change things in reality as well. I'm twisting myself a little bit in knots here with this, but the essence is there's only one here, and I am it. And there are multitudes here. Somehow I am it as well, but I don't have connection to that version of myself in terms of intimate knowledge in this moment. And that makes for such a wonderfully paradoxical reality to exist in for me, of how do I dance that dance of being the one, God embodied in a human form, and all things expressions of myself, and look over and see another version of me, God over here, that's doing the same dance. It's a hell of a trip.
It sure is. And we picked a beautiful environment to dance in. We're in Bali, Indonesia. So I think a friend of mine, I was talking to her yesterday, and she was going over all of the hardships in her life, and that, you know, she's been to hell and back, but she always seems to pick a beautiful environment to be in hell in. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I'm softening as I'm getting older, and it's helping me to receive others from a compassionate point of view, and it's directly related to how much compassion I can have for myself, my past self, present self, and that is how I receive. I guess it's coming back to your question, how easy it is to me to receive, but it's the same coin of being. It's the same side. It's a opposite side of the same coin of being compassionate for myself and being compassionate for other people, and I can have firm boundaries in that. I can be compassionate for a person, and I cannot let them in. But it's much easier. The door for me to receive is through compassion.
I got these tattoos on my body, and one of them is a representation of truth for me, and this one is a representation of compassion, and they feel like two sides to the same coin. Truth without compassion can be violent, or maybe always violent, and compassion without truth is enabling. And another one of those dances of the two sides of the coin. How do I marry them together and live a life that is adherent to the principles of truth that I found, and yet being compassionate that I may not be able to fully live that truth, or others may not be living that expression of truth either, and that there's a journey here that we're going on, and how can I be okay with that? How can I be compassionate, accepting, patient with myself and with others in their journey home, returning to self, if that is indeed the direction of the journey?
It's a beautiful journey to, and especially to share with others. It's easy for me, it's easy to isolate when I'm in pain, and it's easy to be social when I'm in joy. But I suspect that life will become more rich if even the sorrows and the struggles and the pain is also shared. Going back to creating a safe container for that, and that's one of the things I really respect about you, that you go out and you seek to hold those spaces where it's safe for men to be vulnerable and to be held in a container. And yeah, thank you for doing that, Terence.
Appreciate your acknowledgement of it, and become quite a container guy. I recently did a workshop called The Roar of the Feminine, and it's all about the creation of a container that allows for feminine expression to flow more fully in it. And there was a lot of work that I realized needed to be done to create that container, and it wasn't just about having assistance there and making sure the building that we were in was suitable, that we had the things like water for people and accessible toilets and microphones that were working so people could hear. But my partner Nina and I were teaching it together, and we realized that part of the container was our congruency in what we were offering and how clean it was. And there was a big piece that was a leak in the container, and it was that I wasn't trusting her in her feminine expression, in her intuitive feminine knowing, and I was trying to impose my masculine ideas of structure on it. And it does feel like a microcosm of a macrocosm of things that happen in the world, of the lack of trust in the feminine, the lack of trust in that intuitive flow, in the capacity of the feminine to be able to care for itself in certain ways. And then when we came into right relationship, and I found the place where I said, it's really scary for me to trust you that you've got this, but that's my job, is to trust you. And then that played out a few times in the workshop where I felt this urge to come in and try to rescue or to change or to manipulate the settings so that it was more safe. And then I could feel her and our agreement asking me to sit back, and more magic was able to flow as I held that container for myself and for her, of like, no, that's not my job here. My job is to trust, and that's part of the container. Trust the feminine in this. And so yeah, containers are, I'm a container guy now. I'm realizing it's so damn important. And I think one of the things that in honoring the feminine inside myself, that's something that is happening in me, of why I'm wanting to create stronger containers, is that I don't trust the feminine inside myself. It's scary. The feelings that are within me are intimidating. You speak of turbulence a lot earlier. This turbulence, this chaos that's inside my emotional world internally in my feminine essence. And I think there's a call that's happening in me of, how do I externally build these containers for men to be vulnerable, so I can witness men being vulnerable, so I can be more vulnerable? How do I create these containers in the outer world so that I'm more trusting of the containers within myself? And how can I trust my own inner feminine to guide me through the experiences that are necessary for me to have for full integration? And it's my work at the moment. It's part of the work that I'm doing at the moment.
It's beautiful. I'm in the way I guide myself and others. I'm very focused on style. No person will walk life the same way, and I find that so invigorating. I don't like. I like order, but when it becomes too structured and too systematic, I lose inspiration to be creative. And that's what I want to spark in people. There's no right or wrong way of doing. Like chaos, it's scary. And I've developed my way of dealing with chaos. I've explained it to you, how I've navigated through life and creating safety for myself, and that's my style. I see other people that are way, in my opinion, way more chaotic, and I'm like, wow, it's interesting to watch. And I like that. I really love watching others go through this chaos and observing and being inspired, because I don't think there's a right way. I think this is a incubator for souls to have experience in human form, and being on an assembly line or something like that seems like a waste of time.
I'm glad you resonate with that. It seems like a waste of time for me too. And I have the space in me to acknowledge that for some people, it is like the most amazing time, just not for me.
I probably wouldn't listen to that podcast of them explaining how amazing it is to be on the assembly line.
That happens though. Like the reality of this world is so many people are living that way, and there's a temptation for me to judge it and to pity them and to say, wow, that's not the way to live life, it's a waste of time. So just in contrast to that view, I want to find allowance for that to be a rewarding experience for that person, even if it is fraught with suffering and they hate it. That they're doing it, to me, means that it must serve great purpose in their life, or else it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I realized I was a discerning dick, but there's a discerning dick inside of me.
I'm glad you've got a discerning. I'm one of the judgiest motherfuckers that I've ever met, and I think every other person that I meet, when we get really honest, we start to see that we are super duper judgmental. And can I love myself for being the discerning dick?
Yeah, I love your discerning dick, Terence.
On that note, yeah, it's been great to be with you today, and thanks for the insightful conversations.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Terence. It's been a pleasure.